Hello, welcome to a brand new YouTube series I'm creating right now. This is the first episode called Venture Prince. Now, I don't want to, as I go along with these episodes, I probably won't go into my backstory all the time. But being the first episode, it's Venture Prince is coming off of a podcast that I do called the Venture Cast. Uh, a very little about myself for now, and maybe as we go through episodes we can find out more. And if there's interaction, I can certainly love comments and people, responding to comments and people that are interested. I have no idea what to expect from this now. It's been a while since I started off a brand new YouTube series. So it's always tough to me at the beginning, but I've been a person who's just chased passions my entire life, whether it was radio broadcasting or kind of dumb, stupid videos for YouTube, uh, stand-up comedy, photography, which we'll get into more because that's what this series is gonna more focus on. But I've been my whole life has just been a chase at trying to make a living, being creative, not doing the 9 to 5 thing. So I was trying to come up with a way recently. Have loved photography ever since I was a kid. I've always been into it. I took a graphic arts class in high school where I learned how to use a darkroom. I took 2 classes at community college. Same thing where I worked in a dark room and actually know how to develop my own photos. Now it's been a while. So if you shoved me in a dark room today, I don't, it might take me a little bit, but I generally have learned how to do it. That's how much of a passion I had for it. And photography and art is always so interesting to me because I certainly would enjoy selling it. I have no idea how to do that really. A little even history about myself this year. Anyone that knows me, it takes very little time to find out that I'm into Mackinac Island, a place I have worked on the last 3 summers, a seasonal tourist island in northern Michigan, if you're not familiar. If you're watching this from somewhere other than Michigan, I probably could put my microphone a little there, and you'd see my Fort I'm wearing my Fort Mackinac shirt and Mackinac Island hat right now. That's, very normal for me. I wear Mackinac Island stuff quite often. And they have I've worked there seasonally the last 3 years, and they always have a juried art competition where people can submit art, and it can be paintings, sculptures, any type of media art, but I'm into photography. So I submitted a photo last year in my first attempt. I had not attempted the juried art contest before because I wasn't really quite familiar with it. Last year, I finally saw a post about it. I'm like, well, I should try. Why not? I've heard taken some photos that I thought people enjoyed. So I entered and I ended up luckily first try in there, made it into so in this juried art contest on Mackinac Island, there happened to be about 120 entries, 20-ish make it into the museum for the whole summer. If you're in the top 20, if they pick you and you're in the top 20, you make it in the museum the whole year. And there are some prizes, first, second, third, and some honorable mentions. I ended up getting blessed, so grateful to get selected as an honorable mention, one of my photos of Mackinac Island. And so I only say that not really to like brag or anything, but it's like to kind of give a uh context to that. I really enjoy photography. I'm currently working on a YouTube series documentary about kind of myself and my own autobiographical on my life and my constant chase after making a living through being creative and what happens when people reach a certain age and they haven't, made it, quote unquote. And my definition kind of is making it is like I'm living sustainably on my own through these endeavors. And I've had a lot in my life. I've been on a podcast that was pretty successful and I made some okay money on that for a while, but that fell apart. I have sold some photography in my life. And this year, again, like I said, I had one in a museum on Mackinac Island. So there's been some tastes of like, yeah, maybe I have a little talent here, but I've never been able to push over any threshold. Stand up comedy as well. I've gotten paid to do comedy, man, maybe 50 times. I've had a few moments here and there where I thought, wow, maybe I could do this thing. And it just hasn't panned out. In 2022, I took I had saved up, and in 2022, my buddies and I got a minivan and drove around the country, and with the goal of performing open mic comedy in all 50 states in America in the same year. And we did that, and it was fun, and it was great. And at times there was some momentum. We had some people donate money here and there, but I'm still in the end a 41-year-old who's living at home with my parents and trying to do this thing. So, idea I had was I want to get back into Instagram a little more and start posting a little more some of my photos. And I kind of thought, and it'll be super interesting because at first, who knows who's I'm setting up a brand new YouTube channel, so I have no followers as of now. I mean, if you're watching this, thank you, and please like and subscribe. If you haven't been asked that 500 times a day when you've been watching movies, we're all just going to eventually like and subscribe to each other's lives, and then it won't mean anything. But but anyway, so I don't know what to expect with this. But my thought process was I want to start posting regularly. Again, I haven't done this in a while, where I actually post photos on my Instagram twice a week, every week, same day, and really work on it and grow. And the real reason is not even to get followers. It's just it's some hope that maybe people I'm trying to find the best way to get my art, my photos out there and see if anyone is interested in buying them and supporting a starving artist, even though I'm not starving, but I'm only not starving because I'm living at home at 40. No, but so kind of try to grow the Instagram and see if I could pair it with a YouTube video. Most of these will be rather short episodes, maybe 10 minutes. I'm just gonna pick a photo that I posted, and how it's gonna go is I'm gonna post on Tuesdays and Thursdays a photo on my Instagram, and on that same day, I'll post a YouTube episode of E Venture Prince where I kind of just dive in more into that episode. So these probably will be rather short episodes. Now, if the series were to keep growing and growing and it got any traction and people were interested, I can of course maybe I could add more, bring, different, even other photographers on and talk about their photos. But at the beginning, it'll be pretty short episodes, and I'm just gonna kind of go from there. But I am gonna do two a week, and I'm gonna try to do it for at least a year straight, and just see what happens. Do it for 1 year. As I'm sitting here, actually, it's January 2nd, 2026, which is crazy. I remember back when I was younger, I used to say, "Oh, in the year 2000, I'll be able to drive a car." Now it's 2026, and I'm still living in the same place. Can I hammer that home enough? Anyway, but I'm kidding. Uh, so I don't know where this is all gonna go, but I think I have a goal of doing 2 episodes a week for this entire year, including this summer. Part of my documentary that I'm filming, I'm going over to Europe for 9 weeks, and I'm gonna perform open mic comedy in 9 countries or 8 countries over in Europe. And, I will be doing episodes while I'm there as well, and most likely those photos will be coming from my time in Europe. So I think that's enough background for today, and I'm going to, like I said, maybe as this goes on, I can give a little more here and there depending on, interest or comments, but I don't wanna bog down too much with all that. I think that's a pretty good setup for now. So I'm gonna take the photo that I'm gonna use today, and like I said, most of these episodes will eventually just be where I just get on here, talk a little about the episode or the photo that I posted on my Instagram, that day, and, go from there, and we'll see if maybe in a perfect world, it would grow and, um, more people would be interested. But let's get into the photo for today. All right, so I luckily, it's so awesome these days, you take photos and they're on your iPhone, and, you can just, like, see exactly when and where you took the photo, um, like, on my Google Apps, so I really enjoy that because I thought for me, something that might be cool to add context to these photos is really deep dive into exactly when and where they were taken, and a little bit of information behind this. So, first off, this was taken on Sunday, June 27th of 2020, and I'll get into more of that detail later, but Sunday, June 27th, 2020 at 6:08 PM, I was headed east on 94 in North Dakota between Bismarck, which most people probably might know the name Bismarck, North Dakota, and a very small town of New Salem, North Dakota. So it was on the highway, sun's coming up. I was on a trip in 2020, and I'm not gonna get too into the COVID thing. I think we're all probably sick of hearing about COVID. And some people, thank God, will listen to this, and maybe they'll be young enough that COVID's not even a big deal to them, hopefully. But I was, kinda didn't know what to do. I was in a weird place in my life, as most of us were during especially the early parts of 2020 and early COVID. Um, and I had a relationship that had ended, and I was actually starting to save up for my big cross country comedy trip of 2022. But my brother was living in Helena, Montana, and I thought this would be a great time to go see him. What a great, a good excuse to get out there and see him. And not really COVID related per se, but I thought it'd be funner to rent a car and get out there instead of flying out to Helena, Montana. I live in the Detroit area of Michigan, and so I'm trying to remember, see how far we drive to Helena. I think it's about an 18-hour drive to Helena, Montana from here. Let's see what goo what did I say? 14 and a half hours. Whoa, a little longer than that actually. So about 25-hour drive. So I was a little off. And I thought that'd be great. What a great time to do it. Just get kind of clear my head. I'd been this relationship had ended about a month or so before that, and I was just starting to feel maybe a little better here and there. So I rented a car and drove out to Helena, Montana, and I took this on June 27th, 2020. Like I said, 6:08 a.m. eastbound on 94 on a headed from to Helena, Montana. So that is kind of the crux of it. I like sunrises big time. I like sunrises and sunsets. I love highways. You'll see this eventually once I get more into these episodes. I love roads in photos. I love when they're empty. What I kind of think this is cool about this one personally is that you got the road on the right here, empty road, the white line there. It's really flat, real flat on the left there with the, side of the road and the power lines kinda stretching off into the distance, the sun coming up, and I'm someone who's a real early riser. I wake up super early. We'll get into a lot of this stuff once I start talking about trips, my comedy trip, especially when I take some of those photos. So, yeah, that was I can't remember much more about this. I definitely stopped the car for this one, and this was my first real time driving out west. As a kid, I was very lucky growing up that my family, uh, would take us on trips out east. My dad worked in the automotive industry, and my mom ran a business. So my dad they would shut down for 2 weeks every year in the summer, and so we would take that time and go out to the East Coast and see things like, Boston and Washington, DC, and Philadelphia, and those were awesome and great times, although I didn't appreciate them as I was going through them as much. As I got older, I was like, "Dang, that's pretty cool. We did that." But we never went out west, and the reasoning was and I get it, back then, for one, you didn't have, like we couldn't be in the back on our iPads or anything like that, so you just been staring out the window, and the West is so great, and I can't wait. I have more photos that we will definitely get into as we, go through this series here, but the West is so cool and just so empty, but I think you almost have to be older to appreciate it, because when you're younger, you'd just be bored, and it would take you so long. You drive to the Grand Canyon, that's 2 hours from Flagstaff, and then now you gotta drive all the way back to the hotel, and the kids don't care. So, I'm glad I did that stuff actually when I was older, and I'm glad we did more East Coast stuff when I was younger because the East Coast is a lot closer together. So, this was my first real take of driving out west, on my own. I'd never been in South Dakota before, or was this in North Dakota? This is in North Dakota, right? I'd never been in well, either of those. I'd never been in North Dakota before. I'd never been headed out to Montana before, so it was just a cool thing in my head to say I was doing. So, yeah, that's when I took this. You'll find real quickly that I have themes I like in photos, and this hits a few of them. So, I think that will do it for this first episode of Venture Prince. If anyone checks this out, please let me know what you think of it. What do you think of the concept? What do you think of the photo? It's just something like I said, I'm gonna try to do it. My goal is to do the year, do at least a year and see where that goes. But I hope people find this interesting, the concept interesting. I think it's a cool idea. That's why I'm doing it. So yeah, that will do it for this episode of the Venture Prince. This is gonna air on Tuesday, January 6th, and it will coincide. Like I said, all these will coincide with Instagram posts I make. eVentureCast is the Instagram. You could also check out my podcast, eVentureCast, and my Patreon, eVentureCast. If you're anyone's curious about what it's like to live on a carless hor carless, horse-filled tourist island of Mackinac Island up in northern Michigan. I'm sure it's been last few years gotten voted number 1 island destination in America or number 1 tourist destination in America or something. So there's a high chance that most of you have heard of Mackinac Island. If you're at all interested, I work with horses on the island. I was driving I was an assistant and then became a driver of a dray on Mackinac Island. So I work with horses every day. I have hundreds of videos and extra podcasts where I talk about the experience of working and living on Mackinac Island, as well as my 2022 cross country comedy trip where I drove around America in a van in the same year, all 50 states, and performed open mic comedy, not getting paid, not a tour, self funded. So if you'd be interested in that, I have a Patreon called the eVentureCast Patreon page. And of course, all these photos, I'm doing this. I'm loving to spread out art, loving to get this stuff out there, but I'm also doing it to see if anyone's interested in buying it. So you can reach out to me, Eric Fady, ERIC, F is in Frank, ADIE at gmail.com. And you can text me 248-935-9241 if you're interested. Thanks for anybody that has checked out my very first episode of eVenture Prince. I super appreciate it and look forward to seeing where this journey goes. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. See you.